Susan, may I ask you why Sweden has been so active in setting up environmental policies and taxes?
Well, we started with environmental taxes back in the early 1990s, and that was after the energy crisis and all that. It became very important in Sweden. There became an increased environmental awareness of this, and we simply think that climate change is the most important issue the globe is facing, so we want to do something about it. And we started back then with taxes at a fairly low level, and then we've continued to increase the levels and to fine-tune the system. So we think that cost-effective instruments are very important, and the taxes are the major tools we're using.
And you also managed to convince the population in a way that this is a good thing to do.
Well, of course, Swedes doesn't like to pay the taxes any more than anyone else does. But yes, I think we have managed to convince people that this is something for the good, for the environment, for the climate, and also that the money that brings in from the revenues, they can be used for address distributional effects, like in the green tax reforms we were seeing during the years in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Could you summarize a little bit on the outcome of taxing greenhouse gas emissions in Sweden?
Well, as I said, we started in 91, and if we compare the figures from 1990 till 2012, we have seen an increase in GDP by 59%, while the reductions of the CO2 emissions have been 20%. So I mean,
that's remarkable.
It is. I mean, the big challenge ahead of us is, of course, the motor fuels, the diesel and the petrol. But we have seen a significant decrease in the emissions in the heating fuels, in particular in the sectors which have been high tax, because we have from the start have a two-level system with a high taxing for household and service sectors and a lower for those facing international competition. And we have seen the very good results from particularly the service sector and households. We don't have hardly any fossil fuels in private households, and more than 90% of the flats in Sweden are now fueled by district heating. And with the input in district heating, it's no longer fossil fuel like it was way back. It's now biomass, and also to a great extent household waste, because all countries have household waste. They need to get rid of it, and we make heat out of it.
That's a clever strategy, I would say.
Well, we think so too.
Have you detected any severe problems related to this kind of taxes, or can you give advices to other countries who are thinking of introducing some kind of taxes or policy?
Well, I think you should start reasonably low and try to do stepwise increases. And I know it's a hard time to convince politicians to look into the future and decide things well ahead. But if they can be convinced to do that, it's very good. Like we had a climate tax package in 2009, which are measures aimed at reaching our targets for 2020. Then the Parliament in 2009 decided measures to implement it in 2010, 2011, 2013, and now the final one, 2015. That's one way. And of course, the impact on competitiveness is hard for all countries. And I mentioned earlier to you that this two-level system, that we had a lower level for industry, and that's one way of coping with it. It's, in my view, better than border tax adjustments. It's something you do nationally in order to ensure the competitiveness. And Swedish industry is very export-oriented, so we definitely want to take care of our industry as well, while at the same time fighting climate change.
And with respect to distributional issues, what do you...
For the households, you mean? Well, the households, it's about making sure that you have feasible options all the time. So we make sure that we have a good public transport system, and as I said, the district heating system has been developed, and most low-income families live in flats, and they are fueled by district heating. And also we have a system with our income taxes that if people drive their car to work and have long distances, they can make a deduction. And when we have raised the carbon tax, we have made sure to raise also that possibility of deduction.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interview, Susan.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here.